everybody. Welcome to this week's edition of The Verdict. A little bit later on, we've got 5 races to have a look at, 4 in the UK and 1 in Ireland. But first of all, it's exciting times as far as the Race IQ data is concerned, and indeed The Verdict, because we are going to introduce par sectionals in the show today, as devised by the Race IQ team in conjunction with Racing TV. Let me give you a bit of an explanation of what par sectionals are and how they are derived. So, par sectionals compare a horse's sectionals that he achieves in any single furlong against the optimum sectional time for the course and trip that they're running over. The par sectionals are derived from looking at a horse's sectionals in fast time races over the course and distance. So we have pars which we can use against what horses actually achieve in races throughout individual furlongs. How fast a horse has run in every furlong in a race is compared with the par and expressed through the following thresholds: very slow, slow, par, fast, or very fast. And this gives us a real good handle on how races are run. Let me give you an example and take you to the Qatar Goodwood Festival and the Lennox Stakes. The colour code is at the top, very slow, right through to very fast. Audience and Art Power were quickest out of the stalls, and you'll remember that they made the running, seemingly at a strong gallop. But no, very slow against the pars in that second furlong, slow in the first as well, and then the next 2 furlongs were only par as well, 11.72 for Audience and 11 seconds too. So what we can derive from that is that the first 4 furlongs was quite steady. It was quite an even gallop. The first 2 furlongs slow, and then they quickened. You can see they go green at the 5 furlong point, 10.6 for the winner, 10.86 and in 11.76. Let me take you to Kinross, who finished 3rd. He was held up in the race. He was given quite a lot to do, with Audience and Art Power establishing an advantage out in front, and he fired a very fast furlong. There it is, the 10.74. That's very fast against par to get himself into contention, and we can tell from that he's run really well without being able to win. So a steadily run race early on, in fact pretty slow, then they go par, they go even, and then they quicken from there on in. And this is the advantage of these par sectionals. They can tell us exactly how races will run, and we will utilise them in The Verdict today. And we are going to start at Nottingham last week with an interesting 2-year-old performance. Let's have a look at the Race IQ time indexes for that day. And you can see that the average was 5.29. And we're going to have a look at First Instinct's effort in this race, this 2-year-old, who achieved 5.35 in the second race, as highlighted for you there. So just over the average for the day, and quite a nice 2-year-old performance. The time could have been a little bit better if they had gone a stronger gallop in the early part of the race, and we'll have a look at that now. First Instinct is a newcomer from the William Haggis yard from stall 5, second Kalahari Blue from stall 9, and the third horse Kokobar from stall number 2. The early part of this race was quite steady, and the winner hampered by a slow break, slowly up to 20 miles an hour. Kalahari Blue, 2.9 seconds. First Instinct, 7th fastest, 3.28 seconds. Kalahari Blue, the fastest up to 20 miles an hour, and indeed thereafter made the running. And Tom Marquand had to take his medicine a little bit on First Instinct. He was a little bit keen in the early part of the race, in the pink cap, and will challenge towards the right-hand side of your screen in this race, but stays on really strongly. She's a nice filly by Bated Breath out of a Beat Hollow mare, and she's related to Stayers, and for all the world the data tells us that she wants further. This is a steadily run race. Looking at the colour coding of the par sectionals, the first 4 furlongs were slow, the leader taking them along at a pretty steady pace. That's Kalahari Blue in front, and they only quickened in the final couple of furlongs, with First Instinct coming home strongest, 11.45 in the 5th furlong, and then the last furlong was where First Instinct was really strong. So that was a fast furlong, the 11.45, the penultimate, and now the final furlong, about to do that now, rated as very fast against the par sectionals at 11.91. And that gave First Instinct a finishing speed percentage of 104.76, able to come home nearly 5% quicker through the final 2 furlongs than the rest of the race, aided by saving energy in the early part of the contest. But this performance must be marked up. This is a filly with a ton of stamina on the dam side of the pedigree. For all the world she wants further, but at least at this trip, surely she'd have wanted a stronger gallop. She didn't get it, but yet she was still able to run down a horse who had got a pretty soft time, Kalahari Blue, out in front. There's the win time, 1:14.44. It's a 0.18 over the Race IQ par. And we've already had a look at the time index of 5.35, a little bit better than the average on the day. This is quite a nice filly. She wants marking up big time for this. She certainly wants 7 furlongs already, or a very strong gallop at 6. I'd be wary of Kalahari Blue going forward. She got her own way out in front. She was able to do what she wanted off steady early fractions, and she still couldn't win. She was still run down by that horse there, Tom Marquand on board for the very much in form William Haggis. So let's have a look at the data from the race, and we'll take you to par sectionals once again, and you can see that the horse in second, Kalahari Blue, was quite quick out of the stalls, as we highlighted with the 0 to 20 miles an hour data, but then was slow. Look at those 3 blue furlongs, if you like, furlongs 2, 3 and 4. This was steady, all of them going quite steady through those first 4 furlongs. Then they quickened just for the last couple of furlongs, and it was First Instinct who was quickest in the final 2 furlongs, and particularly strong in that last furlong, 11.91 seconds, the only horse to dip under 12, and rated, according to the Race IQ par sectionals, as being a very fast final furlong. Let's have a look at another 2-year-old in action now and take you to Kempton Park last week. We're going to be having a look at what was the first race on the card, but we'll look at the Race IQ time indexes first of all and see how this time stacks up against the others on the day. 5.21 was the average, and 6.09 achieved by El Wateen in winning the opening contest. We had a number of slowly run races, the third last race and the last race, and they sort of brought the average down quite a lot. So El Wateen on debut is a pretty good time, and I think she's a nice filly. So let's have a look at what she achieved at Kempton Park. She came from 5 under Kevin Stott. Orchid was second from 10, and Billy Loughnane. Del Rey was in stall 9 under Holly Doyle and finished back in 3rd place. Pretty much an even break if you look at the Race IQ 0 to 20 miles an hour data. There was nothing that was outstanding there. So we roll on, and we see that El Wateen is quite handy at this stage, down towards the inside in the Shadwell colours. How was this race run? Well, the finishing speed percentage of 109.05 tells us that the winner finished the race quickly, finished 9.05% quicker than the rest of the race. That's because the first 2 furlongs were quite quick. Fast first furlong, an even par second furlong, and then they slowed it, and they slowed right down furlongs 3 and 4 around the bend for a 13.19 and a 13.28 for the winner. So it was quite quick early, then they steadied markedly, and they were very slow around the bend, and then they quickened up in the home straight. And El Wateen showed a very good attitude to win this, and I think there's going to be more to come from her. She quickened up really well through the final couple of furlongs. Orchid towards the outside makes a move now, 3 out, and is fastest through the 5th furlong at 11.77 and surges to the front. But now El Wateen gets rolling and is really strong in this final furlong, rated as very fast according to the par sectionals at 11.65, and that gets her back up to get back past Orchid, who had surged to the front, but maybe had made a bit of a premature effort. Orchid fastest and rated as fast in the 3rd last furlong. That took her to the front, but maybe her effort would have been better delayed a little bit, allowing El Wateen to be very strong in the closing stages of this contest, and she's quickened up well, and she showed a tremendous attitude as well on her debut. Kevin Stott was on board. She's trained by Saeed bin Saror, and she's got an entry in the Bet365 Fillies Mile, and Saeed bin Saror, when interviewed afterwards, was pretty keen on her. He thinks quite a lot of her, and there's certainly going to be more to come. I'd be very positive about Orchid. That was just a bit of a premature move to get into the lead, and weakened and tired inside the final furlong. Indeed, yeah, there was a bit of a poor final furlong of 12.04 compared to the winner of 11.65. So there was a big discrepancy in their final furlongs. But this race, quite strong through the first couple of furlongs, steadied markedly through the next two round the bend, and then they turned into a bit of a dash in the straight with Elwateen's effort timed well by Kevin Stott, and she showed a tremendous attitude as well to get back up and win, having been headed. She certainly knew her job, but I think there will be more to come from her. So we can have a look at the data, and the data, these are the pass sectionals. You can see the first furlongs, green through the first furlong for everything, for every single horse. They were fast in the first furlong, steadied a little bit to be par through the second. Then that's where they took a pull. Look, they went from 11.92 Elwateen to a 13.19 and a 13.28. They steadied round the bend. Then they started to pick up again. But look where Orchid made that move. The sectionals show it perfectly. Orchid went 11.77 in that fifth furlong, with Elwateen 11.91, Del Rey 11.9. That's where Orchid made the move. The move was sustained with a very fast second last furlong of 11.12, but then paid for it in the last furlong with a 12.04, allowing Elwateen to be very fast in the last furlong and get back up. Orchid will win a race in the near future. Elwateen will go on to better things. Last week, Salisbury held a two-day meeting. We're going to have a look at a couple of races from there. We're going to start with the Stonehenge. This was a listed contest. And let's have a look at all of the times first of all and see how this stacks up. Look at that. Steadily run, wasn't it? The third race, just a 3.55 time index score rated between 0 and 10. The average on the day was 5.24. It really was a low score and a steadily run contest, as you can see from that. So what happened out there according to the sectionals and the Race IQ data? We'll have a look at it. New Century wins from stall number 2, got the better of Luther from stall 3, and the Parthenon was third for Aidan O'Brien and Ryan Moore. A rare raider at Salisbury for them, but could only manage third place. Oisin Murphy out of the stalls fairly quickly on New Century, and immediately decides to lead. Now, none of these were sort of confirmed front runners, but Oisin decided to seize the mantle and get on with it. Parthenon tracked, and Luther sat back in third place. And what Murphy did was he dictated a very steady gallop. He went 15.93, which was slow, and his next two furlongs, according to the pass sectionals, were very slow. 13.07, 12.76. There it is, the second furlong, very slow. Third furlong was rated as very slow as well, and even the next two were slow too. So he's just turned this race into a sprint, and he's at a positional advantage over the second horse, who's run a blinder. Luther in second place has really stepped up and run very well according to the sectionals here, staying on strongly in the closing stages, but basically given a bit too much to do. So the first 5 furlongs were really steady. Ryan Moore just trying to up the ante on the Parthenon, carries his tail funny in the run. Oisin Murphy, aware of that, is now just beginning to get going on New Century, and now he's gone from the slow zone to a very fast zone. The last 3 furlongs all rated as very fast for the winner: 11.71, 11.83 and a 12.75. Now Luther, who's come to challenge down the outside, he's run on really strongly, and his final 2 furlongs were quicker than New Century. New Century 24.59, he's 24.47. But he made up his ground to get to New Century, and then New Century was just a bit too strong inside the final furlong. In fact, New Century, a quicker final furlong. But the 2 furlongs prior to that, Luther was quicker. He used up his speed to get to New Century. It's very hard to run down a horse, though, who has got a positional advantage like New Century had here, and who was rated so well by Oisin Murphy. And Luther needs to be upgraded for this particular effort, running on really well. He's 11.62 and 11.64, rated as very fast, third last and second last furlongs, faster than New Century. But he had too much ground to make up, and he's a horse to keep an eye on going forward. The Parthenon was a bit disappointing. He wasn't given a hard time in the closing stage. He's carried his head a bit high, and perhaps he's more of a stayer, because this was just a race that turned into a 3 furlong dash, and that man there, Oisin Murphy, got it absolutely right out in front, dictating matters and able to see off Luther who had to make up 4 or 5 lengths from the back of the field. And he did that, but then he couldn't sustain it in the final furlong. The data tells us exactly that. It's a good one, this, as far as the past sectionals are concerned. Look at all the blue. That means slow or very slow. Dictated by New Century, slow first furlong, very slow the next 2, and then slow for the next 2 as well, with Luther rated off the pace in 3rd place, plenty to do. Then they quickened, 11.71 for New Century, but 11.62 Luther. 11.83 very fast for New Century, but Luther again quicker at 11.64. But then Luther pays for that with a 12.83 in the last, getting tired. And although New Century's getting tired with 12.75, they are still quick, very fast in that final furlong. New Century just better. Look at the final furlongs though. This tells you through the final couple of furlongs that Luther was quickest, 24.47, 24.59. What do we conclude? Excellent front-running ride from Oisin Murphy. Got it spot on New Century, got his own way. Luther had too much to do and can be marked up. Let's go to the second day of the Salisbury meeting last week and have a look at what happened on this day. The times are pretty good throughout the day, as the Race IQ Time Index scores tell us. Let's have a look at what was achieved. Pretty good, no crawls, no New Century style races, crawl and sprints. And Fox Legacy in the last put up a very good score of 8.24. Second last, just slightly better, 8.65. Average on the day, 6.49. The ground perhaps a little bit tighter than on day 1. Let's have a look at Fox Legacy then. In the last race, he came from stall 4 under Ryan Moore for Sir Michael Stout. Glendower was second from 3. Secret World was third from stall number 8. We've had a look at quite a few races thus far on the verdict this week that have resulted in fast finishes off steady gallops, or off gallops that steadied round a bend. This is completely different. This is a race that is run at a strong tempo through the early part and horses finishing slowly. The winner is a decisive and wide margin winner, but nonetheless, he's running a little bit slower than you'd expect in the closing stages. This early part of the race, uphill, is quick. The first 3 furlongs rated as very fast for the winner and fast for the leader, who's bowling along in front, Galaxy Princess. First 4 furlongs really quick, and then they steadied. Ryan Moore just making a move on Fox Legacy to get handy. They then steadied through the 5th furlong, and they were quite even through that. And then they galloped out, and the winner was much more resolute than anything else. Highlighted there was that quick furlong, that 4th furlong was that very fast against the sectionals. That's when Ryan Moore made his move, 13.59. He made his move to get handy. Now, he hasn't done so in a steadily run race. This is strongly run. The first 5 furlongs quick, and a lot of horses already in trouble. They're coming off the bridle in behind the first 2. They're done already. This is becoming attritional now. And what Fox Legacy does is he keeps galloping. After running 5 furlongs, rated as just being fast or very fast, now he's into the blue zone. Now he's slowing down, he's running slower than par, but he's pulling away from his rivals, who just could not cope with that early gallop. Furlong 8, 12.22, rated as slow. That's just an example of what he was achieving in those closing stages. And his finishing speed percentage was 100.66. So he's been rated evenly, but in a different way than you'd expect, not by running even 12-second furlongs, but by running hard early on and then getting a little bit tired in the latter stages. But you've got to be impressed with how he did this. He's pulled well clear of his rivals. He's had to run hard with that very fast furlong early on, that 4th furlong, 13.59. He's run hard early on. He's run fast uphill, yet he's still able to keep going much better than his rivals in the closing stages. He's basically stayed much better than they have over this 10 furlong trip. And you can see why Sir Michael Stout had tried him at 12 furlongs in the past. He'd looked a bit awkward in the past, but Ryan Moore's got a tremendous tune out of him here. No surprises there. And there could be a fair bit more to come from him. And he is entered this week at Newcastle in a Class 4 handicap on Thursday. And he might take a fair bit of beating. He's way, way, way ahead of his mark and I wouldn't be surprised if Sir Michael Stout does run him. Here's the data, here are the sectionals, and look at all of those green numbers for Fox Legacy early on. Fast, 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 then very fast, then par, and then slow against par for those final 5 furlongs. That gave him an even finishing speed percentage, roughly what you would expect, but it was a race that's a bit upside down, fast early on, par for a furlong, and then he slowed down throughout the closing stage. Just have a look at that very fast furlong, that 4th furlong. That's when Ryan Moore made a move to go and get close to the leader, Galaxy Princess, and thereafter nothing could get into the race. He outstayed his rivals in tremendous fashion, and it's a very interesting way to achieve a pretty good finishing speed percentage, but it's a race that's sort of run inverse to what you would normally expect. I really wanted to include the performance of Continuous at the Curragh on Saturday in the Royal Whip. He was really impressive. Remember that he was a bit of a disappointment at Royal Ascot in the Hardwick, where Ryan Moore looked after him in the closing stages of that race. Probably needed the run. He was much better here at the Curragh on Saturday. Let's have a look at it. He's a really good horse, Continuous. He came out of stall 6 for Ryan Moore, beats Trust Your Instinct, who came from stall 4, and Caught You Looking, who came from stall 7. In the early part of the race, Ryan went to the front. I think he was thinking of making the running. After all, this is 10 furlongs, and he's on a horse who won the Ledger last year, but he's happy to take back as Trust Your Instinct on the inside in the JP McManus colours goes forward. And he will make the running under Declan Madonna, ultimately. There we go, he slides forward. Ryan's perfectly happy with that. He's happy to sit in. And the reason I think he's happy to sit in, although he's on a horse who's won a Ledger over a mile and 3/4 and he's running over 10 furlongs, he's on a horse who's got plenty of speed, and he shows it in this contest. A contest that was run at a steadyish gallop in the early part. It picked up the pace from 4 furlongs out, and then they really started to sprint thereafter. Trust Your Instinct dictating at this point. Overall, I think what we've got to highlight is the speed of Continuous. I was really surprised about how fast he was in the closing stages of this race, and Aidan O'Brien must realise that. He tried the Hardwick, and now he's here again over 10 furlongs, and it just shows just how versatile this horse is. A bit unlucky in the Arc last year. He'd won the Ledger. He got a bad bump and was forced wide in the Arc, and he could have finished closer but for that. But 1.25 miles is no problem, and he's entered in the Irish Champion, so who knows whether he might go there. Now, as they turn into the straight, look at the way they gallop. Trust Your Instinct has got a longer stride, according to the Race IQ data, on the inside than the winner. The runner-up stride 7.12 metres compared to the winner of 6.93. But look how quickly he turns his wheels round effectively. Continuous. Look at that. Very, very quick the way he moves. He's got a quick, choppy little stride, and that tells us that his strides per second are really quick, way quicker than the second. Here's where he quickens. This is what's impressive. 10.98 seconds in the 9th furlong, using that quick cadence that he's got, and he backs it up with an 11.88 seconds after that. You can see there, look at the quick cadence. He's not a big, long striding horse. He's just got a very quick strides per second, way fastest in the race, which enables him to quicken better than his rivals, and he has won pretty comfortably in the end from a useful horse back in second place. The final time was good. If you think 2 minutes for a top-class horse over 1.25 miles is a real benchmark. He's 2 minutes 4, 2 minutes 4.09, so it's a pretty good time from him, and he was 5.808 seconds under the Race IQ standard for this. So that's a very good time performance from him, and based on really his ability to quicken in the closing stages. 2 really quick furlongs late on to put his rivals to the sword. I highlighted his cadence. I'll tell you what it is. 2.34 strides per second he has, whereas the runner-up is 2.27. So 2.34 versus 2.27. He spins his wheels really quickly, grabs the ground with a bit of knee curl, and that enables him to quicken. It's amazing that he was able to win a Ledger. He must be very talented, this horse, because as well as staying further than this, he's fast. And we can have a look at what happened in the race. 109.2 is finishing speed percentage, so he's 9.2% quicker in the final 3 furlongs than the rest of the race. And that aided by that 10.98 second furlong. Wow, that is quick for a horse who can win a Ledger. 41.19 miles an hour is what he achieved in that furlong. Trust Your Instinct ran perfectly well. He quickened up nicely in a race that really only developed from 4 out. He did 11.04, and that's a quick furlong. 11.08 for Caught You Looking. So they were all sprinting from that 9th furlong, the penultimate furlong, but they're not as quick as Continuous. Well, look, I hope you enjoyed looking back at all of those races, and in particular, engaging with the new Race IQ Par sectionals. I think they tell us how races are run and how races are won, and they're going to prove very useful, I think, as we work our way through more verdicts and through more live racing as well. I think First Instinct, the first horse that we looked at, is very well worth keeping on side. I think she wants just a little bit further. El Watine was very strong late on in a race that was a bit stop-start at Kempton. She's in the Fillies Mile. She's interesting. Make a note of Orchid, the runner-up. Put her in your racing TV tracker. Made her effort just a little bit too soon. New Century, who won the Stonehenge at Salisbury, given a good ride by Oisin Murphy from the front. But Luther had an impossible task the way the race was run. Very steadily run, according to those Par sectionals. And Luther had an impossible task from the back of the field. So needs marking up, perhaps just a little bit. And Fox Legacy, what are we to make of that? Well, that was a very interesting race, according to the Par sectionals, where they went fast early on. They were very much in the green zone, and then they were slowing down, according to those sectionals, in the latter stages. But nothing could live with Fox Legacy, who stayed on way too strongly for them. Look out for him at Newcastle on Thursday. And Continuous, a stayer with loads of speed. He was so impressive in the Royal Whip. Most impressive horse of the week for me. I hope you enjoyed looking back at those races, and indeed looking at the Par sectionals as well. More to come next week. I'll see you then.
Watch live racing now on racingtv.com.